welcome to the show. I'm V. LaBianca.
I'm Eric Murphy.
This is Skeptic Generation.
And we need to talk.
Today is October 3rd. September is over. It feels like it went by so fast. This is episode 20 of season 1.
Yeah, we're out of our teens and we're into our own first place, and you can't tell us what to do. And we're totally grown-ups now.
Yeah. Can't drink yet, though.
I know.
How are you doing this week?
I'm doing super, super good, and I'm really, really excited. This week was a big crunch week for me just because of the work that I do. I work with Holy Kool-Aid, and we put out a video recently that was actually really good. It was about historicity of Jesus and the Bible, and but other than that, we've got some stuff coming up personally that I'm really, really stoked about. I think we should tell them.
So we are doing something that we've been talking about for a couple of months now.
So V and I have been planning on doing this personally for like 6 months. It's ridiculous. Before we moved in, we've been looking forward to this. It was a while back, V put on an old Godzilla movie, and I was like, I've never seen Godzilla, and V was like, we need to fix this.
So we're doing Kaiju Week next week.
Yeah, so all this next week, we're going to be getting home and putting in, food and just watching kaiju movies, and I'm stoked about that. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can go check out my Twitter if you want to see the lineup. I've tweeted that out. So if you want to join us and watch crazy Godzilla movies all week, it's over there.
We'll probably take that to Twitter. Yeah. I should live tweet. Yeah. I should do
live
that.
tweet your first experience with the OG Godzilla movies.
I'm in. I like it.
I like it.
Other news?
Kenneth Leonard, a personal friend and fellow YouTuber, fellow atheist content creator, got married.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations, man. It's very exciting to see you happy and thriving, and we love you.
Yeah.
And then finally, before we jump in and we do our normal spiel, we have a little bit of we want to remind you guys how the outro process kind of works and give you an example of what we do with our outros, because it is very possible that this has not been communicated, and we don't want you to, not see your name up there and be like, what's going on?
Yeah. So it fluctuates a lot. And we kind of decided that in order to maintain my sanity,
at least until we get a producer.
Yeah, on the first of each month, I go in and I update the outro. So if you become a patron and that patron level includes your name being included in the credits, just be patient. On the first of the month, it's going to get updated. So if you've become a patron this last month, you're going to see your name in the outro today. If you don't see it, shoot us a message and I'll make sure that gets fixed. Yeah, I think there were a couple of people who signed up who didn't see it last month and then had to go, and that's understandable. We also didn't communicate that, so.
Yeah, in case you're wondering, we get updated every month. You don't have to pledge for every week in order to be mentioned. As long as you pledged sometime in September, you are now hopefully in the October outro, and if you aren't, let us know. I do want to make a note here. David Ford says, happy 20th. You should do the next episode a little later in the day to make a drinking game out of it. And I'm kind of down for that. What if we just kind of made a drinking game out of it next week?
It is our show. I don't know how well I'd be able to handle deep philosophical concepts while inebriated.
I mean, I feel like we handle them better when we're inebriated, though.
Well, we think we handle them better when we're...
Well, we will be able to tell for sure.
Oh, no. We will think about it.
We'll think about it. Oh, my gosh. All right, so we currently don't have any callers on the line, so we are going to ask you guys, go share this out. Go give your Christian friend or your wooey friend or your friend who maybe just needs a little bit of a skeptical conversation online.
Or if you're just a believer, you want to talk about what you believe and why. I've been thinking a lot about homeopathy. If anybody's into homeopathy and that kind of thing, I'd be super, super up for diving into that with you and finding out why you believe that and where that's grounded, because that'd be fun.
If you believe that water has memory, give us a call.
Please do.
You can call us at 585-526-8774 or visit us at tiny.cc/callsg to talk to our call screener who is on the line and ready to take your call. And then you can chat with us. And if you feel like asking us a question but don't want to bother calling in, or maybe you're camera shy, or maybe this just isn't the right format for you, you can use Super Chats to ask questions as well that we answer at the end of every episode. So if we say something that you have a comment on that you'd like to share and have us shout out, or if you have a question about something that is talked about during the show, that's a really good way to make sure that we see it and answer you before we hop off for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like we actually have somebody who is screened, I think. I don't see a name, though. Do you want to... Oh, no. Sorry. They're talking
In the screening room.
In the screening room.
We're just so eager to talk to you guys.
I know, right? Okay, so I had a thing. V, I had a thing.
What was your thing?
I don't remember. I was one of the... Oh, yeah. Okay. So, this last week, we read the comments. I know we shouldn't be reading the comments, but we read the comments because it's fun and...
We're masochists.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're a troll, we're not going to respond to you because you should call in. But there was one in particular that made us laugh, and that was we were referred to as small boy and greasy weasel, right?
Well, I mean, it wasn't clear who was who. We made the assumption that between the two of us, I was small boy and you were greasy weasel.
Yeah.
So we are embracing it.
I mean, it feels more like a call sign than it does like a pejorative.
Honestly, like, troll comments tend to do that really well. Like Androgynous Cat Cyborg, my personal kind of avatar for my channel, came about by somebody trying to insult me. And it was just so perfect that I had to run with it. And so far, I think Small Boy and the Greasy Weasel is kind of pretty up there in terms of awesome
I worked
troll.
so hard to cultivate at Dirty Heathen and all of that.
I mean, Greasy Weasel, Dirty Heathen, there's like, there's a synonymousness there.
Yeah, let's see, is there anything else?
I think that we should be pretty good to go as soon as our first caller is out of the screening room.
Okay, sounds good.
Yes. We also did have a number of troll calls last week, and we talked with our call screeners, and we are setting up a couple of things to try and make sure that doesn't happen as often. Sometimes they can result in really interesting conversations and then just go off the rails at the very end, like Brian. But, you know, sometimes it's just offensive right off the bat, or it isn't a good use of our time. So if you're calling in, please make sure that you're calling in from an actual number or a web interface. If you come in as anonymous, we probably aren't going to take you, not because we don't like you or we don't think your question's good, but because probably you're a troll.
Yeah, and I mean, there comes a certain point, like people will argue about whether or not a conversation is an honest or dishonest interlocutor. Mm-hmm. And as far as we're concerned, if we can have a conversation that's useful to the people who are watching this show is for you, you know. And so I definitely see people go, oh well, the person on the call is definitely not having their mind changed. And really, I think a lot of the use of this show is for people to engage with this from afar, not having to dive in and do that, but watch the conversation played out. So it doesn't always need to be an honest interlocutor, so long as it is a useful conversation that the audience will get. But
especially if it's a dishonest conversation point that pops up a lot in real life that you might have to deal with as well. Yeah. Somebody might not like show up to your work and start yelling, slurs. But if somebody is coming at you with a dishonest argument to try and prove a point, even if it's a dishonest argument, like a lot of the precepts that we talk to, it can be useful to break that down and pinpoint where it falls apart.
So we do have calls that are ready to be taken, but we should do a video, probably not on this channel, but we should do a video about honest and dishonest interlocutors, because that gets thrown around a lot, and I don't think people know what that means.
Stay tuned, you guys. We've got
Do you want to do that?
I think that'd be a good inaugural episode of maybe some other
some other project
at some point in the near future.
Okay.
Yeah. So stay tuned, I guess. All right, we have our first caller, Nick in Tennessee. Nick, welcome to the show. Let's hope you can hear us today.
Yes, I can.
Beautiful.
And
we can hear you
sound
too.
Wonderful. I'm so happy.
Eric was having a little bit of a difficult time with the Xair today.
Yeah, our mixer was messing up.
So, what can we help you with today, Nick?
I'm an atheist, and I've recently been attending my friend's church and kind of just asking questions to some of the people there about the sermon or about the books that they're reading in Bible study and stuff like that. And I think a large reason why I do that is kind of a carryover from when I was a Christian and taught to like evangelize and spread my beliefs and confront bad beliefs. But now, like, as I'm looking at Christianity and other religions and stuff that have some harmful beliefs within them, I wonder if we have, as skeptics, as atheists, as non-believers, some kind of moral obligation of some kind to kind of confront those bad beliefs on the behalf of people who maybe haven't learned or realized how to yet.
Yeah. No, that's a good question, and something I've grappled with as well. In fact, during my angry atheist phase, which definitely happened around 2017 to 2019, I would joke that evangelicism trained me well. They equipped me for the battlefield, and then I turned around and fought for the other side. So I know how to evangelize, and I have that fire in my belly, right? I have that desire to share the good news, and the good news just happens to be the opposite.
There is no good news.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that everybody on this call can probably relate to that, like, realization, like, this is an instinct that has been honed in me, and I don't ascribe to anything else from that worldview anymore, but for some reason this is still hanging on. I think that for me, I'm not technically evangelizing on this show because I don't go to other people and like demand that they talk to me, right? Everybody who calls in has like entered into this consensual contract between two people or three people that like, we're going to have a conversation now and you're going to pick the topic. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily evangelizing, but I also feel kind of weird weighing in on this, like, yes, you should or no, you shouldn't, because I've made myself somebody who does.
I don't know. Right. I feel like there's so much kind of nuance in that. Like, I think the first distinction we should make, especially for, those who are watching who agree with us already, and that is you don't have the right to take someone else's consent when it comes to engaging in something, right? You don't have the right to approach somebody on the street and force them to have a conversation with you. And the idea that, you can, or we have to rid ourselves of that. That is something that Fee and I actually had a conversation about not too long ago, just to kind of have out. And we came to that conclusion. Yeah, no, you don't have that right. But does that mean that we shouldn't point it out? I mean, I don't know if confronting someone with harmful beliefs is necessarily the way to go about it, but to say, hey, check out this asshole, that's, I think there's use in that, when the public sees and engages with that, maybe if it's not to convince the person themselves, it's to give everyone else the chance to have that conversation and see why it's a problem.
Right. So I get the idea that like we shouldn't, essentially harass people on the street like a street preacher or somebody might. But in this instance, for example, the church has on their flyers like a welcome invitation to skeptics and seekers and believers and everybody. And I just kind of took them up on it. And they've been asking me, what did I think of the sermon? And so I've been honestly telling them. And then one of them invited me to participate in this book study they're doing and whatnot. But very much like kind of going into a space that they've invited me into, and then kind of having the playing a devil's advocate kind of role.
Right. Well, in that instance, I think that you're actually not obligated to by any means, but I do think that if somebody from a church or a religious organization comes up to you and acknowledges your lack of belief and also invites you in to talk to you about it into that community, they have invited you and your beliefs into that community. So as long as you're being genuine and like honest, then I don't see a problem with actually voicing those opinions. So if there's this assumption on the other end of things that you're just going to sit there and listen to them talk at you and be magically changed by, you know, the Holy Spirit or something, it's gonna be this magical thing and they won't have to worry about interacting with you. I feel like a lot of the time, at least in the groups I grew up with. But so it might be a reaction of resistance on their end if you do start to do this, but that doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. That just means that their assumption that you're just going to sit there and listen was inaccurate.
Well, and also that assumption may be what they were actually trying to invite. They, you know, not a conversation, but hey, we actually just want to talk at you, but we're going to make it look like we're here to converse with you.
Exactly.
So, anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Provided then that the church group in question isn't, I guess, just kind of using this as an opportunity to proselytize, but actually does want to have discussions like this. Mm-hmm. I imagine there can't be just the one. There have to be others. Since there's nothing wrong then with doing what I'm doing in the situation, would you go so far as to say that more atheists should be doing it? Should be going to churches and kind of participating in their Bible studies to kind of point out the flaws while they're on the inside?
You know, I don't know.
I think that there's this like, this is a microcosm of subjective versus objective morality right here. So like, if you think that it is moral to do this, and if you think that the goal should be to deconvert people, then yes, you should do this. But not everybody thinks that that is a moral necessity, and I am not one of them. So I think that there are definitely some atheists or some skeptics who are very convinced that the way forward is to go to these groups and actually engage with them honestly. And in that case, if you think that that is a requirement from you, then yes, it is. But I don't necessarily see that as the best way forward. And so I wouldn't make it an obligation for anybody. If that's something you feel good doing, and if you're not infringing on other people's consent or autonomy or space and time, then cool, good for you. You should do that. And that is a good thing to do for you. But for me personally, I think we're going to make a lot more headway in the political arena and spending our time there, and also in the childcare and education arena, and making sure that people who are not Christian have non-Christian or secular options for childcare, for child support, for community, for education. So for me, that's a more, like, if somebody was like, V, what should I do as an atheist to advance a secular society? I would say start a daycare. Like, to me, that is something that you should be doing if that is your goal. But again, that is my subjective morality, with the stipulation there that you and I might agree on what that moral imperative is. But if you disagree, then that's on your time, your turf.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that just don't be an asshole. If we're talking about a moral imperative, don't be a dick. You know, if you're the only atheist that people know around them and you're an asshole, guess what they're going to think of all of us? Don't be a dick.
Right.
You know, it's you know, congratulations, you are that representative.
Yep.
Don't be an asshole. Show, you know, build community and don't care what a person's beliefs are. Show that you can be good without God, but also that you're not going to fall into the tribalism of only helping other people who don't believe, right? You don't, if we can just push back on that, I think that's enough. And I think that's an easier sell.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, great question, Nick. Thank you for calling in.
Oh, thank you for having the forum.
Absolutely. Bye.
We have a caller. I really want to talk to him.
Okay. Let's talk to Connor in Colorado. Connor, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi. You're coming in nice and clear.
Hey, Connor.
Yeah, Eric's very excited
Hello.
to talk with you. So give us your best shot. What you got for us?
I was wondering if a flat Earth model could be just as valid as a round Earth model.
Before we dive into this, where are you coming from this from? Like, where are you coming at this from?
Well, I think you could do a series of coordinate transformations and allow for what they say is like Pacmaning. And you have like a map projection. So if you ran a series of coordinate transformations over the whole universe and put the center of the Earth at the center of that coordinate system, then wouldn't you have like a flat Earth model where any experiments or whatever you did would, sort of.
Let's. I mean, let me see if I've got this right. So I, in the last video I was making, needed to work with a map of the Middle East, right? Specifically the Levant area. Jerusalem, Israel, the Dead Sea, all of that area. It had mountains drawn on it, but those mountains weren't coming out of my screen. It was a flat map. Does that mean that those mountains are smooth? Is that what you're talking about?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, help me.
Yeah, I guess we think it's a round Earth because we do a certain type of physics where we make some assumptions.
Okay.
But do we really know the shape of the universe?
Okay.
The universe, that's different than the Earth. So you're like a flurvivor.
Well, I mean...
Is that what you're talking about? Like the universe as opposed to the Earth?
Or did you really mean to say, do we really know the shape of the Earth?
I mean both, because if you have like a satellite, right? A satellite has a latitude, a longitude, and an altitude.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sitting at a lat long on a flat Earth, but it's some altitude up. So it's flat all the way up and all the way down to the center of the Earth, all the way up throughout the
How
universe
could there be
and
a
all the way down.
center if it's flat?
The center would be the very innermost point.
So like the peanut butter and jelly in the middle of a sandwich? What are we talking about?
Yeah, have you seen I think it's the Mercator projection of the whole Earth,
Mm-hmm.
where it just gets wider and wider up towards the top.
Uh-huh. So it's like
Until the poles are just sort of a implied point, like actually an empty point.
Well, I mean,
At the very top.
they're there. It's just the way the map is. Like, you can have a map of, the Earth from different angles, right? I'm very surprised. You're using satellites as an example, but satellites wouldn't exist without the velocity and speed required to get into orbit implying around Earth. You're talking about baggage that we're bringing to the table, right? Assumptions that we're making. And so I kind of want to ask the same thing back at you, because I don't think that I'm going to do as good a job as Veritasium did in proving that the Earth is round, or that Numberphile, or any other number of science communicators have done. But what I do want to do is I want to ask where about the baggage that you're bringing to the table. So can I ask you, Connor, what's NASA doing? Is NASA lying to us?
No, I think, I believe a round Earth is just as valid of a model as a flat Earth.
Okay, do you think they would come into conflict at all?
No.
No?
Wait, what?
So if I'm flying in an airplane to Australia, whether the Earth is round or flat, you think that I would be going the exact same way?
Yes, because if you look at a Mercator projection, it is like if you're flying from east to west, at a very high or low latitude near one of the poles.
Yeah, but
you move faster along the map.
But
scale.
Here's the problem: is let's say that on the left side we have the North America, South America. On the right side, you have China, Japan, and in the south there's Australia, right?
Yes.
Okay, you're starting at Australia, and you start flying east. Are you going to fly off the map, or are you going to wind up back in North America? If you're flying northeast or South America. Right, there's a conflict there. In one of those projections, you're not going to get there. In the other, you are.
Now you're just going to Pacman.
What do you mean by Pacman?
If you play the game Pacman, then when you get to the edge of
you
the,
just
of the
pop
board
out on the other side?
You just pop out on the other side.
This can't be real. This can't be Connor, really? Really? Are you Poe? Like, is this a thing that people actually believe? Like, and it's just it's just as valid?
I think I'm the only one.
You're the only one?
You're the only one. So
I think I might be the only one who thinks it's just as valid.
We're going to get into validity in a second. I do want to ask about teleportation. It sounds like you think that teleportation is a thing that happens to everyone who goes past a certain geographic area.
I'm just saying that it's a possibility, and if it was perfect teleportation, then we'd never know the difference.
Well, yeah, and if you were a brain in the vat, you'd never know a difference either. Are we just jumping straight into anything that we can't know can be just as feasible as anything we can?
No, there are some things we can't know that aren't just as feasible.
Like what? Give me an example of a shape the Earth could be that would not be feasible, granting teleportation.
Okay, if it was a single point.
That's not a shape, though. Could the Earth be a triangle?
I'm not positive if the Earth could be a triangle.
Why not?
I haven't run the equations.
Running the equations sounds incredibly interesting to me, and I feel like
which equation got you to transport?
I wish we had like the format for this. But Connor. So you're saying
EJ,
teleportation is possible, right? How does teleportation happen? Because Pacman wasn't around, thousands of years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago, millions of years ago, or however long. Like, how does teleportation happen?
I'm just saying it's not a thing you could necessarily rule out.
Well,
okay, but that's
actually, you're saying possible. So if you don't know how it would even work, and you can't demonstrate it, then how would you even know that it's possible?
I guess I wouldn't know that it's possible.
Okay.
I don't know that it's possible or impossible.
Well, so then let's look at the evidence that we have available. We do not have evidence that teleportation is a thing that happens because, honestly, we'd be going into, what would be causing the teleportation? Is there magic involved? And there's a whole lot else. And then, we look on the other side of Occam's razor, and that is we live on a ball. I don't know how both of those things carry equal weight for you. That's what's confusing.
So could I give an example that may be a little bit simpler?
Sure.
Usually when people try to give simpler examples, it's to try and get things back into their comfort zone outside of a question that is actually really valid. So as long as this example is going to directly answer Eric's question, then I would really love for you to first answer the question and then give the example. So Eric's question essentially is, why do you think that something that is, you don't know whether or not it is possible or impossible, just as valid as something that has the weight of a lot of scientific understanding and demonstrability behind it?
I guess you could think you can do certain types of math in different coordinate systems.
Okay.
And so if you could get the same physics answer or answer to various physics questions with my flat Earth model that you would get with a typical round Earth model, then I'd say it's just as valid.
Okay. Can you do that?
If you're getting the same answers, sure.
You can? You can do...
You can mathematically show that, because, like, well, actually...
That would be seriously impressive, and we are certainly not a big enough platform for your announcement here.
But
so
what I'm wondering
simple,
is...
you can go from XYZ to lat lon alt and back for any point in the universe.
It's relatively, right? So you can't actually have defined, objective points unless you're creating a system wherein you're able to, map those out. So let's say you were to make yourself the relative center, and then you can map things out in directions that way, sure.
That's right. You can put yourself at the origin, or you could put the Earth center at the origin.
Let's put you at the origin, Josh. You're the center of the universe in this example.
This is Connor, not Josh.
Sorry, Connor. I apologize.
Josh has not been on yet.
Sorry, I was putting names in the system so that we can, flip to them. I'm co-hosting today, so apologize.
Oh, no problem.
So Connor, you're the center of the universe in your example. How have you proven that the Earth is flat?
In my example, I'd choose the center of the Earth to be the center of the center of the universe.
Okay.
Wait, so you don't wait. So like Copernicus and like you think that the Earth is the center of the universe?
Well, in this example,
I think you can arbitrarily choose an origin, and I choose to arbitrarily choose that origin to be the center of the Earth.
Just as far as mapping things out is concerned. And obviously we know that the solar system is traveling at immense speed through space, so it's not in the same point. Do you agree with us on that?
Yeah, like Einstein talks about relativity, you can arbitrarily choose any point as your center.
Sure.
Like Earth center or Sun center for the solar system, or each work in relativity.
Okay. So, and is this going to account for different stars on different sides of the Earth? Like seeing different stars?
Yes, because in a flat Earth, light no longer travels in a straight line. Unobstructed light no longer travels in a straight line.
This seems like you're introducing an entirely different kind of physics.
Nope, just running all the existing physics into a new coordinate system.
Again, my question, why are you calling us? We've got 8,000 subscribers. You need to be talking to, like, scientists, right? Like, if you've run all these calculations and you've come to the conclusion that a flat Earth is just as likely as a round one, with math and all of physics accounted for, then, like, your Nobel Peace Prize is gonna be on the way, right? Like, that's a big deal.
No, I don't think so, because scientists, that one of their little tricks is that they like doing it in the easiest, they like doing all their calculations and everything in the easiest coordinate system. And my flat Earth coordinate system makes just about all of the physics way, way more difficult.
How did you?
So any calculations are way more difficult.
Hold on. I got to point this out
valid,
really quick.
But no one would like it.
Well, here's the thing. Number one, you're assuming that scientists are taking the easy route. That is not the case. That is just factually on its face incorrect. So let's start, I guess, there. We've got lots of places to go.
We do it the easiest way possible.
What are you talking about?
I mean, so
you do realize that... No, hold on. You do realize that efficacious is not necessarily easy, right? Like, if you are found to be incorrect about something, that's a good thing. That the push of the scientific method relies on people holding each other accountable and saying, hey, this is wrong, this is why you're wrong. And there are people who've made their careers, whose entire legacies are proving a thing wrong, and that is celebrated. That is how the scientific method works. So if something is effective, right, if I say 1 + 1 = 2, that's easy. If I start creating new definitions for those numbers and trying to make them do backflips, that's hard. But that doesn't validate the second one. It just is unnecessary crap. So help me. What do you mean when you say that scientists want to take the easiest way? Because it sounds like what you're saying is laziness has caused an oversight. And that oversight has both been convenient enough that we've been able to launch shit into space, right? But also entirely incorrect as far as the shape of the planet is concerned.
Also, I just want to ask, because it sounds like what you're saying is you took the hard way and scientists take the easy way. How many years and years of study and degrees did you have to do to come up with this equation that you're running? Is this something that you've dedicated like 30 plus years to? Was it that difficult? No. What I mean is that if there's an integral or something like that that a mathematician needs to do, then they'll choose a coordinate system, and they may do a change of coordinate systems in order to get the simplest solution.
Okay,
that's sort of what I mean by the easy route. So you wouldn't want to. So I think I could show orbital mechanics for various satellites or launches in this system, but it'd be way more difficult than your standard Keplerian Newtonian gravitational system. So it'd be a bad idea. What I've created, I don't think is useful, but I think it's valid and equivalent.
Okay.
But you just said you don't even know if it's possible. So you think that it's valid and you think that it's harder and more complex than what our scientists have been able to do, but you don't think you can't know whether or not it's possible?
Yeah, I don't know whether or not it's possible, but if it's a model and it gives the same answers as the standard understanding of the model, then to me it's equivalent.
Okay, so
I can't believe I'm going to reference JPB, but
justified true.
I feel like that's where this has to go at this point.
We will disagree. If you want to go for it, go for it.
No. That'll be a different conversation, and it'll take us another half hour to get through. But Connor, here's the deal. The next step in any scientific endeavor like this, putting aside the fact that you think that the Earth might be flat, if you have an equation that you have run tests on and you think are going to confound the scientific community, or you want to see if it is possible, right? If that's the next step, to see if it is possible, then the next step is to actually start talking to scientists and seeing if they can disprove it. Have you done that?
Yes, the scientists I've talked to say it's true and trivial.
True and trivial.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It adds nothing to scientific work or whatever.
I'm very, very skeptical of the idea that it is true or that it would be claimed to be true.
What I'm getting is that, and again, like, we're all over the map here. No pun intended. But
you should have intended. That was a good one. I like that.
The thing that I'm getting is you're running an equation by some people, and your assumption baked into that equation is that it proves that the Earth could be flat. And the people that are looking at this equation are saying, this equation is valid, as in, like, mathematically it comes out to an integer that is acceptable, but you're not drawing the correct conclusion from it. That doesn't mean the Earth is flat. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it doesn't mean that the Earth is flat, though you could do all your math in a flat Earth and it would be just fine. And it's not a complicated equation or set of equations. It's just a coordinate transformation from X, Y, Z to lat long L. So it's just a coordinate, transformation from whatever your rectangular Cartesian coordinates to circular coordinates.
So that's not true. That is just, that cannot be true, Connor. How do you explain gravity in your system? Does gravity exist?
Not Newtonian gravity, apparently.
Yeah, gravity exists, but of course, gravitational waves don't travel in a straight line anymore.
Okay, how did you come to that conclusion?
because if you take a straight line of gravity waves and describe that in an equation and then do a coordinate transformation, it's no longer straight in the flat Earth model.
Okay, so according to your model, gravity can't exist. So you throw out the gravity, or you throw out your model?
No. Gravity can exist. It just doesn't gravity waves don't travel in a straight line anymore.
It sounds like you're saying that. How can we prove your model wrong then? Like it sounds like you came up with something. You went, oh crap, it doesn't work. Therefore, gravity doesn't work the same way. Like, how do you prove your hypothesis wrong?
Because it's equivalent to a round Earth model,
no,
and would give the same results just because it's a coordinate
apparently,
transformation.
But it wouldn't if gravity has to work differently.
Yeah, you're talking about the way space-time functions. I mean, that's a big deal, and those aren't equivalent, and those aren't that actually matters. So how do you falsify? Right, we're using scientific language. How do you falsify the claim that the Earth is flat? How do you falsify your hypothesis?
I think that if it's equivalent, like you obviously disagree that it's equivalent to the round Earth model, but if it is, it'd be any break in the round Earth model.
So,
like,
wait.
No. Make us reevaluate the round Earth model. It'd make us reevaluate the flat Earth model.
Okay.
So,
No.
You-
Do you want to? Okay.
All right, here's the deal. We need to wrap this up soon because we have other callers and we want to make sure we're moving
Damn
through.
it. Okay. Connor, there
Yes.
being a problem with the round Earth has nothing to do with your flat Earth model. It has absolutely nothing to do with it at all. If it turns out that we were wrong about the shape of the Earth, it has nothing to do with and does not support your hypothesis. Your hypothesis either stands or fails on its own merits. So, again, how do you disprove, how do you falsify your claim?
I don't know.
Okay, you don't know. That's honest, and I love it. How do you explain pictures taken of the Earth from space?
Because light no longer travels in a straight line in my flat Earth model.
Okay, so you think that
you get the equivalent.
Okay, so let me get this right. You think that we have people who have traveled into space, gone to the moon, looked at the Earth, and because light travels differently, they perceived a round Earth.
Yes, it's exactly equivalent. It's exactly equivalent to the round Earth.
I don't think it's
I'd love to give a very quick, more simplified model.
I feel like we're going to need to move on this time, but feel free to call back. If you can call back, here's the deal. If you can call back and run a calculation in the meantime that proves a rectangular Earth shaped like a pyramid is just as likely as either a round Earth or a flat Earth, you can call back and we'll take your call.
Well, actually, for those of you who are sitting here yelling at the screen, put it in the comments. I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
We'll approach this together.
And we'll also link that Veritasium video in the description as well.
We should. I'll see if I can put a card up. If I was successful, then you can click here at some later point.
Or he forgot.
Or I forgot.
All right. Thanks so much for calling in, Connor.
Hey, thanks so much. Appreciate
Take care,
it.
man.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow.
You don't even know where to start.
I mean, here's the deal. A, he admitted out of the gate right away that he could it was neither possible nor impossible. He could not determine whether or not this thing was even possible, so falsifiability goes out the window immediately. He also said that he talked with some people, allegedly, and this person, the people he talked to said the equation is valid in a mathematical sense, but it doesn't say what you think it says. And the reason he's not bringing it to other people is because scientists want to take the easy way.
That
I don't know. Here's the deal.
scientists aren't willing to do the backflips required to get to.
Scientists don't want to.
I don't know.
Just ditch gravity and light to get to this model.
I guess.
I mean, that would be difficult to like rewrite everything we know about gravity and light.
Or it sounds like he was saying that it is trivial, that it is entirely that both of them work just as much. And I have to imagine, like, if someone were to say, "Hey, Eric, I think we're in the Matrix, but you still need to eat and sleep and you can't jump off the top of a building, and we have to act as if we're not in the Matrix, but I think we're in the Matrix." I would say that is a trivial idea. It does not have any way to disprove it.
Again, falsifiability.
And we're not able, so because of that, I don't see any need for, it feels like there are extra steps, you know?
There are extra steps and definitions of things that are redefined based on what Connor needed them to mean. So, I mean, if you can make a pyramid-shaped Earth just as likely, give us a call back, Connor. I'd be curious to hear how that works. God damn it.
Yeah.
I banned him, though. Like, he's banned. He's not supposed to call in.
I thought it was just taking a break.
It wasn't a long enough break. But also, like, it sounds like he's asking that. Put him on.
Okay.
Put him on. Robin, in D.C.,
Good afternoon.
why are you calling back?
I just had like a question, because this is something that I ask a lot of atheists that I talk to, and maybe you guys could answer it, especially since the name of your show is Skeptic Generation.
Wait a minute. Wait. Do you realize you're calling the same show you've been calling regularly? Like, you know who we are, right? Do you remember us?
Hi, Robin.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
This sounds
I
like a
remember.
script. Are you running a script?
No, it's not. No, I'm not running a script.
Okay, what's the
It's a
question?
legitimate question.
All right. What's the question?
Well, I mean, the show is called Skeptic Generation. We were just talking. You were just talking with someone who claimed to believe that a flat Earth is feasible. In your worldview as an atheist, why would anything be outside of belief? And what grounds would you be critical about any of those state of affairs?
Yeah. Well, here's the deal, Robin. I actually got a little look into the back end of what goes on with you and your Discord server while we're on the call, and the names that we get called, and the words that Darth Dawkins tells you to say to us. I know it happens. I heard the recording myself. So tell Darth, go fuck himself, and leave.
So you can't answer the question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Darth Dawkins is a fucking transphobe. He has insulted multiple people on air. He calls us names. He calls Robin. Hey, Robin, go call them and ask them this, which is why it sounds like a script, because it is. It's a fucking script. It's the same question we've answered 5 times on this show.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna fucking waste my time anymore. I'm sorry. Just...
If you have other things to ask, go for it. But if you're going to come in with a presupposition that only you can access truth, and then dip, dodge, duck, dive, and dodge, just to not have to explain your own shit, it doesn't add any potency. It doesn't add anything to the argument that you're making. If you want to say that you have the access to truth that we don't, prove it. Show your work. And if you don't want to do that, or you want to rely on berating, belittling, and name calling, and just weird shit like that, or straw manning, which you did right out the gate, you can go and fucking play with your friends elsewhere. But I hope that you can come up with original questions. I hope that you can call back and engage with us in a way that doesn't say, "Hey, asshole." Hey.
That is the vibe, isn't it? Listen, Robin, if you're still listening, and I know you probably are, Darth is not your friend, okay? It's bad. It's a bad situation, and I know that you can do better. I've had conversations with you, hell, probably more than most people have had the stomach to put up with, and you've asked some actually good questions buried in the script that other people give you. Now, if you're actually curious, then you can give us a call. But if you're just gonna come with the same shit every single time, pretending like we never had a conversation before and trying to score linguistic points that don't prove anything and don't back anything up, then we're not going to take your call or anyone else that Darth sends our way. So, get fucked. All right.
Tell me how you really feel.
Oh, I'll save that for the after show.
All right.
Speaking of, we are going to have an after show over on Discord, so feel free to follow that link. It's tiny.cc/sgdiscord, correct?
Yep. You can also see the link in the lower third. It goes on through.
Perfect. All right, so join us there, unless you're Robin. All right, let's talk with Sam. I'm really curious about this.
Okay. We get Sam.
Hey, guys.
Queued up.
Hey, welcome back, Sam. How are you doing?
Doing all right. You guys?
We're doing good.
Yeah.
We're doing good.
Oh, sorry.
I'm invigorated.
So, what I've kind of come with this time is kind of the question I see go around occasionally: is street epistemology dishonest?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know where Eric sits, but V, I know I've heard you say positive things about street epistemology, so I can guess where you sit in terms of that.
Yeah, I think there's a larger conversation to be had for sure. I'm curious, kind of, can you go into that a little bit in case people don't quite know the context behind this question? Because I've heard it, you've heard it, but it could be that our viewers haven't.
Yeah. So, with street epistemology, quite often people will say that it is, or try and argue that it's dishonest, and usually the points people will try and make with that are things like, oh, street epistemology is just to try and create doubt, it doesn't cause anything productive, or to say that it is just to try and create unbelievers, so to speak, which is not helped by Peter Boghossian.
No. Oh, God. Sign of the cross. Like, I'm not even religious, but, putting that up there.
So I disagree with those criticisms, but there's other criticisms I have that I don't hear come up as often with street epistemology. Mm-hmm. That I quite often, if I ask someone why is street epistemology useful, I will quite often get the response because it's a way for me personally to ensure I'm using skepticism properly.
Oh, so it's using other people as a tool.
Yeah, and so I can definitely see how people could think it's a useful device. It's a modified version of the Socratic method, for crying out loud. Mm-hmm. But the way that it often gets pitched to other people, like the street part of street epistemology, is less that and more, can we examine one of your beliefs rather than as a general tool for skepticism?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys want me to kind of keep talking or
no, that's
leave the floor a second.
No, that's a really good kind of overview, both of the common understanding when someone might say street epistemology is dishonest, and then kind of where you fall. So I'm going to address it real quick first, like both sides of that, because I think that we're right to divvy that up into two sections. And then Eric, of course, I want to hear what you think about this as well. So calling street epistemology dishonest because the goal is to invoke doubt or knock confidence down a few pegs, to me uses a weird definition of dishonest, right? If that is the stated goal, and if done well, it should be, right? You shouldn't necessarily just spring this on somebody. But if you're saying, hey, what's your confidence level? Could we talk about how to get that confidence level adjusted in one way or another? What would that take? If the other person is down for that, then the doubt that they might feel afterwards is part of a mutually agreed upon and consensual conversation, right? You can't be held accountable to how someone feels after talking to you as long as you have both been respectful and engaged and honest. So I feel like that element can kind of be put to rest. I know it can be uncomfortable. Street epistemology can definitely be that, but I don't think dishonest is a right term for it. Now, in the way that you have phrased it, Sam, I think it's very interesting to talk about it in the way that what I'm getting from you is saying, hey, if you're using this as kind of a mental exercise and what you're doing intentionally or unintentionally is impacting another person, not because you care about them or actually want to engage, but just because you want to practice something, that then feels icky, right? Is that kind of where you're coming from?
That's an aspect of it, but I think the more core thing for me is that the fact that people give two very different answers in different contexts about street epistemology isn't inherently a problem, but I think it starts to become a bit of a problem when because like I'm in the Street Epistemology Discord server, I've talked to people about this and stuff. Yeah. Where they will tell me the point of street epistemology if I ask them for them. I gave those two different examples, but then the issue where I see it is primarily the amount that it is a conversation tactic when people go out on the street that relies upon the other person not being familiar with street epistemology. Because people will often ask me if I'm going to help them practice street epistemology for themselves to pretend I don't know anything about it. And the fact that it's so common in the usage of it, that the other person has to not know what's going on, that's not informed consent.
Got it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that my initial instinct, and I'm going to have to think more about this, and I'd be curious what everyone thinks. Leave your comments below, because this is something I'm curious about and probably will run a poll on. My instinct is to say that I wouldn't necessarily call it dishonest, but I would say that it's not useful. So in the same way that we discourage callers like Robin using a script and assuming that we either A, don't know what we're talking about, or B, are going to answer in specific ways, that's going to set him up for failure, because he's going to come up against people who don't fit that script, right? And then he's going to look like an idiot. And for street epistemology, the goal should never, ever, ever be to run a script, right? That's antithetical to what we want to do. It can be easier to learn the correct answers by rote, and that's something I hold myself accountable to on these shows, where I'm like, oh, well, I know the standard answer that gets trotted out every time someone says, I believe in God. You say, well, which God, right? And that's just the line that you give. But that's not a useful thing to do, and that doesn't engage my brain. All I'm doing is parroting something I've heard other people say or practiced myself in the mirror, right? Yeah. So. Oh yeah, a lot of people who I hear doing street epistemology, when it comes time to talk to me about it, it's just like a lot of them will have pre-prepared things they think they can say about it. Yeah. Which is another point of contention I have with SE, but a smaller one. Oh yeah, no, it is very like Christianity focused. So if you are not a Christian, then you're kind of, you kind of like scramble the algorithm for a lot of people who are not well versed in it. So yeah, I think ultimately my take is, I don't know if I would call it dishonest, unless you're being dishonest with yourself in that you think you're preparing for something, but you're taking the easy way out by relying on a script or asking the other person to pretend they don't know what's going on. You can always have a conversation with somebody, and one of the core things about SE that I value is the consensual aspect. So if somebody, Anthony Magnabosco is very good at this, saying, hey, I'm going to ask you some questions. If at any point you want to stop, just let me know and we'll stop. This is going to be 5 minutes. If you want to cut it short, that's fine. If you want to go longer, let me know. So there is that constant element of, let's have a conversation. If you want to tap out, absolutely you can do that. That's important too. It's not just a, well, I'm going to tell you this, then I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to tell you this. It's not useful, and it doesn't make the other person feel like a human. So as long as you're making the other person feel like a human, even one that's now a little bit more doubtful about what they think and how they feel, then you're fine. It's just make sure you're doing it actively and not just memorizing shit. What do you think, Eric?
I want Sam to get the chance to respond. Go ahead,
for it.
I would still, I still have consideration for it in terms of the consent aspect of it, is the fact that I don't think street epistemology inherently has problems with consent. I think the way it's commonly used does, though, and that's more my issue with the whole, can you pretend you don't know what this is the whole, you need the other person who you're going up to on the street to not understand what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that, like, so that example that you're giving, yeah, definitely feels terrible. My understanding of SE has to do with, number one, addressing concepts or subjects that are verboten, that people think, hey, this is not on the table for discussion. This is just, you know, there are sacred things that cannot be questioned. And the process of Socratic questioning, you know, and it's sorry, give me just a second. I got a note saying Eric, drink water. Okay.
We've got amazing mods, you guys.
We really, really do. So, can you follow me there so far, though, that the point of street epistemology in a large part also has to do with causing people to question things that they may have held as sacred, or you know, things that you cannot question? Like, that's that's my understanding of it, because I mean, it sounds like then, yeah, you both hit it right on the head. It sounds like it's not an SE thing, it's the way it's being done thing.
I think there's a difference there between SE in theory and SE how it's practiced by the street epistemology community, maybe?
Yeah, no, I think that that's accurate. I think that maybe reframing the question itself in terms of whether or not street epistemology is dishonest, because that implies like the core fundamentals of what it is inherently dishonest, and maybe people don't practice street epistemology honestly, you know, and that is absolutely true, and I can absolutely get behind that.
But it takes practice.
Yeah,
I mean,
just don't practice on other people without their consent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. It could be that you've been training wheels for a lot of people who have gotten better because of their conversations with you.
You're doing a good thing, Sam.
Possibly, it does usually throw people off a bit, though I don't do it excessively often because it gets repetitive.
Sam, the fact that you are a believer who is engaging like this with people consistently, and, you know, when you're talking about honesty and dishonesty, one of the biggest pieces of it is assuming the best in the other person and letting them be the one to let you down, instead of trying to name call, you know, or trying to shoehorn people into a position that's not theirs. The fact that you're doing it this way, I respect.
Absolutely.
I think there's more space for things like that. And for people asking in the chat, by the way, where I'm from in the UK is Manchester.
People have been trying to guess your accent this entire call.
They have, and I've just been watching it.
Oh my gosh. All right, well, we're going to let you go. We've got a couple more calls to get to today, but thank you so much for calling in, Sam. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the call. Take care, guys.
Okay, bye. All right, we don't have too much time left. I do want to make sure we get to Josh in Colorado, because Josh seems to have an interesting thing, and he's been waiting for a while. Josh, welcome to the show.
Hey, V, how's it going? What's up, Eric?
Hello, hello.
Going good. What can we help you with today? What's on your mind? What's on your minds?
Well, first off, I just wanted to tell you that I was on the bat cruise with you guys last time there was a bat cruise. And
Hey!
And V, actually, you and I walked from the bat cruise to Esther's Follies and chatted a bit.
Oh, I remember you. Yeah. Cool. Hi. How are you doing, man?
Yeah, nice. Pretty good. Anyway, so yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about with you guys what you think about Julian Jaynes's theory of the bicameral mind and the origin of consciousness, and if you'd ever heard of that, and if it's just a thing you don't care about, or where you guys are at on that.
Yeah, so I know very little about it. I've heard it before, and I'm pretty sure it's speaking about. This is a really weird like path to go down. There is a fairy tradition in a specific stream of American witchcraft that talks about your three-part soul. And it's your talker, your fetch, and your godhead, I believe, are the three, or the god self. So there are three parts of your soul. And there's the part that is the talker, which is the one that engages with other people and says things and is that like conscious presence. There's the God self that kind of hovers around the top of your head, and that is kind of your higher self, your ego, I suppose. And then the fetch is the funnest part. The fetch is the part that you can transform into an animal and go do errands for you, which is fun. So it's a fascinating belief system, and it's super interesting. And that's the first thing that came to my mind when I was reading about this, because I believe it's a similar concept of like your mind being split into kind of the listener and the speaker. Is that kind of accurate?
I would say that that's kind of accurate. The difference between what you just described, though, is like that's a belief that people currently hold about the way our brains work now, as opposed to he posits that it used to be that our two halves of our brains were not connected and needed to use audio hallucinations from the right side to the left side to inform your isn't as conscious as ours is now of things that are out of the ordinary. So like you could hoe the fields, you could milk the cows and do all the things that were normal with your regular bicameral mind, but as soon as something out of the ordinary came along, the subconscious part would communicate with the, I'm going to put air quotes, but you can't see them, conscious part or waking mind, and to let it know how to deal with it. And that was often heard in the voice of someone you held in authority. So it would be like the chief of your tribe, or it would be the chief of your tribe would have a god. And when and that's all like fun to talk about. And this is where the god idea comes from, because people actually were hearing a voice that was the voice of someone they considered to be an authority. So the idea of there not being a God would have been insane, because everybody could hear their voice. But he's saying that we developed the connections between the two halves, that allow us to do all that internally, and created introspection. And that's where he defines the difference between the origin of consciousness and the bicameral mind, is the ability to introspect in a way that allows you to imagine the future better and the past, and also create contingencies for imagined scenarios like we do now.
Okay. I mean, that last part sounds reasonable. I don't know so much about the first part, but a lot of science way back when, and a lot of philosophy and all of these fields of studies when they were newbies, really did come down to, let's make something up that explains what we're seeing, and then hope it works functionally in our ability to live better. So if somebody was like, oh, we're noticing that people, have these two sides to them. Maybe they're different parts of the brain, and maybe the way that they communicate is like this. So like, it seems to follow a very familiar and established pattern of initial people discovering, in quotes, a thing and deciding this is how it was, right? Like there are the four humors, or bloodletting cured everything. And then as we get more and more refined and can see more and more about the human body and about neurology and how we work, things become a lot clearer, and we might take some of those concepts and apply them because they're familiar. But I don't know, I guess I'm wondering, is there a question here? Because I want to make sure that I'm answering it if you're asking something. Otherwise, I think it's an interesting theory that we have found a reason to reference in modern medicine.
Oh, for sure. This doesn't really go into any type of modern medicine. It's really more of a theory for the development of the human mind. And I guess I don't really know that there's a question other than if you guys had ever heard of this and if you think it has any validity. The reason I'm interested, because I do consider myself a skeptic and an atheist, and I do like evidence, and so I don't hold this as a belief of this is how it went, because it's clearly unfalsifiable. But in the book, The Origin of Consciousness, and the breakdown of the bicameral mind, he goes through a really lot of evidence, both historical writings about the way the mentality of the characters in the book, specifically the Iliad, was compared to later writings, the way society started to not be as warlike. Like, they would sure fight over stuff, but like the idea of going and wiping out entire civilizations wouldn't occur to a bicameral man. It wasn't until the consciousness. And he points to the Assyrians. And then it goes on to show psychological evidence. It shows examples of people with severed corpus callosum or bipolar disorder, or not bipolar disorder, multiple personality disorder, and how sometimes the separation of these two halves of the brain result in these audio hallucinations that inform the waking mind. I don't know. I guess my question is, have you ever heard of that, and do you think it's interesting? And maybe if you do, check it out. But it kind of, for me, makes me feel a little bit better about why everybody's so obsessed with God and feeding God, and why we have like some need to like search for a God, even though like it could also be put down to our need to know why things happen, you know. But this is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
It also goes into when the minds separate, or when it came together, how people were yearning for that old ability to talk to their gods, and went around, and things like oracles and things like that became very popular. You know what I mean? The
interesting thing for me reading books like this, I've read, not this one, and maybe I should, but I've read many books that try and take a sociological kind of observational perspective and say, hey, we're noticing all of these, you know, strange phenomena, and this is when this thing started, and this is when this thing stopped happening, either in society or in individuals, and let's propose something that maybe makes it all cohesive. And that's fun, and it's definitely, until we prove otherwise, an option, I suppose. But I would never say that this was something like, in general, like I listened to an interview that Seth Andrews did with somebody, and for the life of me, I can't remember the dude's name. But essentially, his theory was that the reason that we think there is a God is because that is the last memory that we have of being in our parents' womb. And that sense of hearing a voice kind of in the dark and being protected and being safe and having this other person kind of like being the thing that keeps us alive is the only leftover part of that experience. And we've just rationally interpreted that as, oh, well, there must be a big parent who is bigger that I am in and that speaks to me kind of in the dark. And so again, like,
interesting.
It's very interesting, and it's a cool hypothesis, but there's really no way to determine whether or not that's accurate. It's a cool story, and it makes people, cool story, bro, right? Like, it makes people realize, oh, maybe there are other reasons for the thing that I'm feeling that is grounded in science and in nature and in history. And that's an important realization to make. But that's kind of where that line of study stops for me. You know, like, once it gets us to that point of, oh, that's super cool, maybe there are natural explanations for this, I should do more research. That's kind of it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, I've always, after reading the book, I was like, wow, that's some good answers to some questions I wish it was falsifiable.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That was
100%.
where I came to.
Yeah.
Though I would point out that both Dan Dennett and Hitchens, not Hitchens, the other guy,
Harris,
the one they made fun of on South Park, they both have referenced it in their books too. The guy who married Mr. Slave, no, Mr. I don't know, I'm losing my name, but
Mr. Garrison.
But yeah,
Mr. Garrison, yes, and it was Dawkins.
Yeah, Dawkins and Dennett both have proven themselves not experts in areas outside of their specific expertise recently. So I'd take that with a grain of salt. Sure. But yeah, I think it's an interesting theory. But I think the main takeaway here, if I was going to find one, is there could be very rational, natural, historical, sociological reasons for the things that feel intuitive and natural to us that we would attribute to a god or a spirit or a soul. And we should go find those things as much as we can and hold loosely to them so that if something is disproven, we can let it go. Speaking of letting go, Josh, thank you so much for calling us. We are going to need to move on to the next caller, but it was lovely hearing from you again.
V, would it be possible for me to say the YouTube thing?
The YouTube thing?
Don't forget, smash that like button. And don't forget to subscribe. Hit the bell and follow Skeptic Generation.
Absolutely do that. Thank you so much, Josh. I remember Josh. I think Josh and a couple other people ended up going to Jamie's house. We detoured and grabbed some beer before jumping to the a little
pre-gaming.
A little pre-game. We all crammed into his tiny little car and it was good. It was a good time.
Nice. I didn't really look into the bicameral mind until I started watching Westworld.
Yeah.
That was a really good show.
Yeah.
All right. Who are we talking to next?
All right. We've got time for one more, I think. Eric, your choice. Who would you like to talk to?
Ooh. Well, first, Bunny, call back next week.
Absolutely.
Really want to talk to you. I think Josh. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's talk to Josh in Tennessee.
Hi, my friends.
Hello.
So good to talk to you guys again.
It's good to talk to you too.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
How can we help you today? What's going on?
So back in March, my father had passed away. It was a long time coming. It wasn't like a surprise thing or anything, but he was in our home on hospice, and he was always extremely non-denominational Christian, which we all know means extreme Pentecostal. That's why he was the associate pastor of the church that I was raised in.
I feel that. Yep.
So super hardcore.
The Lord just puts things on his heart, and he just needs to let you fucking know.
Oh yeah, he loved to tell me how much I was going to believe he was right when I was burning in hell.
Oof.
So great parenting there.
Oh yeah, that sounds great. Take notes, everyone.
Yeah. So he's on his deathbed, and he's just hanging on, and he's miserable and in all this pain. And my thinking is just make him as comfortable as possible. And he begs me, he tells me that I have to come back to the Lord, and because I'm leading my kids to hell, and they're going to burn in hell. And he starts crying and tell me he doesn't want to see his grandkids in hell. And I know the manipulation tactic, and before this point, I would always just dismiss it and be like, well, I think we'd all rather just be in hell than worship a God who sends your grandchildren to hell. But this time, because, again, he kept hanging on, I just decided, okay, Dad, I'll pray with you. And
accept Jesus into your heart.
Yep.
Say the sinner's prayer.
Speaking the language and just regurgitating all these lines I used to say growing up. The first 30 years of my life, I said those words and believed them.
Yeah.
And then,
that must have felt so icky afterwards.
It felt very icky.
Yeah.
Especially since I knew it was just a manipulation tactic on my end to ease him.
You know, I don't know. I'm going to give some personal details about us.
Okay. Cool. I trust you.
So I remember V and I were having a conversation, and I said, V, if I'm on my deathbed and you've done something terrible to wrong me in my life, lie to me. Don't make my last moments the moments that I'm going to be like, what the hell? Just don't.
I think we were watching episode season 3 of Grace and Frankie.
Yeah.
And we were watching as one of them was going into heart surgery, and they I have to confess a thing.
Yeah, don't confess the thing. Just don't. How about not? Me personally, let me go not knowing that. That's fine. Now, if I'm alive and you respect me as a human being, be honest and tell me. But in this specific circumstance on your deathbed, I think no matter what you did, Josh, it's okay. I don't think there is anyone who would fault you for any of the decisions that you made.
Yeah.
Whether it was to confront or to lie or to give in or any of those things. I really don't think that there's a wrong way that you could have done it. And if after the fact you're looking at yourself and going, I wish I would have done it differently, you got to practice some self-compassion and forgiveness, because you don't deserve to do that to yourself. And if it makes it feel any better, like if you had somebody you cared about and you saw that they were being guilted by an outside party for a personal, deep decision like that, you would be protective over your friend. And you deserve that respect for yourself too.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's interesting because my sister, she's also an atheist, but she's been even more in the closet about it to our parents over the years than I have. I mean, I was always the disappointing child, so it was just a little easier to
yeah, I know how that
add
goes.
to that. And she, he told me after we prayed that he then wanted her to do it, and that like I kind of panicked over, because I knew my sister would not feel comfortable doing that. And thankfully, though, that night he ended up passing. But like when I told my sister about it, she just she had the sinking feeling in the pit of her stomach. She was like, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And she said that she approved and thought I did the right thing, which I definitely feel that way now, especially. But it was just it was very surreal.
Yeah.
And it was eye-opening to how little meaning there is to those words. When you grow up Christian, you believe that all words have power behind them. Like, you can't joke and say, oh, I might get sick or something, because then you will get sick because you've commanded it to be.
Damn, that still hangs on. That one hangs on.
Yep.
I will admit that one is still something I'm working through.
Well, I mean, it's worked its way out of Christianity and into the secret as well. Like,
It's just
thing.
like, knock on wood, is still very much a thing. But like, Josh, I think the takeaway here, and I'm sorry, I really don't want to rush through this because this is an important conversation, but we do need to wrap up soon. The takeaway is, whether your sister if your sister got in that situation and was like, I cannot do that, I'm not going to, that is the correct thing for her to do. If you get you got into that situation, you made the call, I'm going to do this for my dad, that's the correct thing for you to do. There is no, apart from being like abusive, there is no wrong thing to do in that situation, because we haven't been in your shoes there. And losing a parent, even kind of a shitty one, is a traumatic and intense experience that you only experience hopefully just, once, probably twice in your life, and that's it. So it's not something you're going to get good at, thankfully, and it's not something that you're going to be able to prep for. So in the moment, if you are motivated by being kind, if you are motivated by a sense of self-preservation, you're motivated in any way, shape, or form to do something kind to this person as they're dying, that is the right thing to do. So if you needed to hear that, I hope that helps. And if anybody in the audience who's listening needed to hear that, or is in a situation similar to yours, we see you, you're doing okay, you did the right thing, don't beat yourself up about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for calling in and sharing. That's a huge thing to put out there, but I know that there are people who are going to benefit from it. So
absolutely.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay.
Always good.
Oh, that was me. That was me. I thought that was it. I'm sorry.
There's such a beautiful moment there.
I know.
I
know. I'm sorry.
Painful. All right, we're going to do our regular shill. If you guys do want to say anything before the end of the episode and have us shout it out, now's the time to drop a super chat. Eric, in the meantime, do you want to throw up how people can support
Absolutely.
Skeptic Generation?
Skeptic Generation is brought to you by you. If you want to get ad-free episodes of the podcast or the channel, or want to join us in bi-monthly conversations, hangouts, and all kinds of other stuff that we've got planned for patrons, consider going to patreon.com/Skeptic Generation. But
there's a button.
Oh yeah, huh? I got the button. Patreon.com/Skeptic Generation. And then we also have, if you just want to toss us a couple bucks for a coffee, we appreciate it. And we're still building out the studio. The thing is, our next jump is a big one, and because of that, it's building up, and we're not able to show a lot of that stuff.
I am so excited about this next big
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
It's gonna be so good. We are doing an after show, so feel free to jump through to Discord as well, and we will talk with you there. In the meantime, let's read out some super chats.
Let's do it. Let's start with Cryptomeria. Sent $5 Canadian, I think.
Yeah.
5 Canadian to us. Doesn't
5
say
Canadians.
Anything, but we appreciate it.
Zach Baker sent $5 and says, I support the drinking game idea.
I don't know how I feel about drinking on air.
I'm usually in my workshop building pretty things and drinking during that time anyway.
Let's see. Student Dr. Ben, hey, sends $5 and says, I'm on call today to yeet some babies. I wish I could watch. Have a great show.
Okay, seriously, you guys, like, Student Dr. Ben still checks in while delivering infants into this world. You'll have no excuses. Lucas Black, $10. Strive not to unravel the twisted intent of one who willingly embraces limitation. From ElfQuest. I like that.
Yeah.
That reminds me of another one that I heard that really kind of knocked me for a loop, which is, you can't wake someone up who's pretending to be asleep.
Huh.
Isn't that intense?
Okay.
Right? That's like all precepts. All right. And then
Mildred sent $11 and says, who's the master that makes the grass green? Who's more trustworthy than all the Buddhas and sages? Yep, and that's it.
And that's it. Me
Is
the answer. I am. Hi.
is that it?
That's it. That is all of the super chats.
Okay.
All right.
What? Yeah.
All right. Well, Eric, take us out. What do we got? Might want to cue up the outro as well.
Oh, thank you. It's one of those days.
One of those days.
Until next time. Don't fuck with Small Boy and the Greasy Weasel.
Boom.